Hello and welcome to the Roadcast. This is a review of 60 Degrees South, Beyond the Ice Wall, a novel by Andy Ross and John Hayman. The majority of the images which accompany this Roadcast are copyright free and courtesy of Flat Earth Dave. As a man of a certain vintage, I have a fond recollection of the books, comics and films that I read and watched as a boy. It just so happened that I received a copy of 60 Degrees South from John. Thank you very much, Mr. Hayman. At a time when I was contemplating a man-boy's insatiable pull towards and capacity for tales of heroism, daring do and exploration. In fact, I recently recorded an essay on this very subject entitled From Heroes to Zeros. The point I made was that in his natural state, a boy will gravitate towards certain activities and modes of thinking. This is, quite simply, how he is. It's his essential state of being. It's no exaggeration to suggest that the mind-benders who inhabit the government and its systems of indoctrination, by which I mean schools, universities, and a compliant media, are most keen to rinse out his boyish tendencies in order that he will become a compliant and unquestioning automaton who has become somewhat feminized. However, the systems of brainwashing can only be of effect for a limited time. While most fall into line like obedient sheep, there will always be those individuals who stand independently of the flock, not so much sheep as sturdy and staunchly individual goats. Some of us are in love with the truth and are compelled to dig down into the facts, no matter how unpalatable they may be to the majority of those who pass themselves off as men. Indeed, there are numerous reasons why a man would seek the truth about the nature of what is known as reality. In no particular order, here are some of those reasons. From a young age, a man is fired by a natural curiosity to know stuff, how things work, in every sense. He wants to know where he is. Places, oceans, compasses and maps fascinate him. He has an instinctive pull towards mysteries, to questions and to find out the nature of the realm in which he finds himself. At an early age, he seeks out heroic figures through reading, comic books, movies, sports and men in his own life. Each hero is characterized by courage, daring, strength in the face of adversity, a coolness of mind necessary to solve problems, an ability to defend himself and his loved ones. In some cases, the boy will be inspired by the actions of those heroes he reads about. Gadgets, tools and weaponry are his to hold. Their value to him is clear. Those who would misdirect him into a collectivist mindset begin their indoctrination of him at an early age. He is shown a ball and told that this is called a globe, and it is the shape of the world on which he stands. But is that true? The map below is by Buckminster Fuller and is offered up to suggest that all is not as it seems, and the actual dimensions of our world are not as we have been told. On a personal note, I well remember asking my dad how, if we are on a giant ball, the people of Australia do not fall off, as they will be upside down. He laughed and told me it was gravity. To this day, I well remember a sense of discombobulation upon hearing his explanation. My natural common sense made it plain to me that we cannot be on a giant ball, and yet science seemed determined to deny the evidence of my own logic and senses. And so the boy is fed the lie of gravity, and that he is a minuscule accident of creation, standing on a rock ball which is hurtling through space at vast speeds whilst it circles the sun. He is told the sun is 93 million miles away. Mind boggled by these numbers and what he is told is the vast infinity of space, he is then fed a diet of science fiction designed to capture his mind with the false notion that space travel is a reality. And so it goes, on and on. However, being based on nothing more than tissue-thin falsehoods, the programming is wont to break down. Later, it came to my attention that there is no evidence that we are on a globe, that experiments in curvature, flight paths, perspective and depth of field demonstrate beyond doubt that whatever this realm may be, we are not spinning through space or going round the sun, and of course that there is no such thing as space travel, the sky being a revolving clock of bodies called stars and planets that turn above us around the focal point of Polaris, the North Star. There's much ancient cosmology and modelling of the world that demonstrates the knowledge of our ancestors was based on the notion of a firmament above us and that we are at the heart of the universe on a still plane, a divine construct that exists as a gargantuan classroom for the edification of our individual souls. With that preamble out of the way, let's begin this review of 60 Degrees South Beyond the Ice Wall by Andy Ross and John Hamer. The premise of the novel is that due to the Antarctic Treaty of 1959, no civilian of any country is permitted to travel any further south beyond the 60th degree of latitude. When private individuals attempt it, they will be ordered to turn back. Should they disobey the order, then the vehicle, whether it be plane or boat, will come under fire. In this story, two British air pilots, Adam and Dobbo, are deployed on a remote airbase south of Chile, near the 60th degree, to do just that. When Adam's military and social programming begins to break down, he goes rogue, with Dobbo reluctantly at first following suit. There follows what is best described as a full-on boy's own adventure. The tale features all manner of gadgetry, from the vintage jet fighters the two men use to weaponry, and a medbed which will cure any and all ailments and injuries in a matter of minutes. As with all such tales, there is a villain or two, and it is their corrupt superior officer, Prendergast, who is the chief miscreant in this case. Interwoven with the hero's narratives, there are revelatory passages, discourses and curious mysteries surrounding Antarctica, its dimensions, its status and previous explorations. No true boy, young or old, will fail to be grabbed by the essential mystery of it all. After all, a man does not stop learning once he leaves the indoctrination centre of his youth. Exploration, I would posit, is his natural proclivity. The authors are clearly old boys who have maintained a healthy disregard for mainstream narratives and a love of exploration, problem solving, adventure and, of course, the truth. Thus, 60 Degrees is a marvellous boy's own adventure, a delightful blend of fact and fiction, woven with the threads of the discoveries of previous adventurers like Scott of the Antarctic, the sailors of yesteryear like Captains James Cook and James Ross, whose journeys took them thousands of miles along the 2-mile-high ice wall, and which were literally endless, and inevitably the discoveries of Admiral Byrd and the ensuing attempts to hide them from the public. The truth is stranger than fiction is the aphorism which keeps gently chiming in my mind as I read the book. Whilst the central narrative of the two heroes is fictional, the interweaving of the facts regarding Antarctica, as well as the mysteries of New Schwabenland, the evidence of the Third Reich's establishment of a breakaway civilization there, the curious disappearance of Amelia Earhart and her navigator, all combine to make it a compelling read. There's also the fact that there are maps from the 1500s which show Antarctica to be free of snow and ice. Naturally, any man with a questioning mind and a curiosity about the realm he is in will be drawn to seeking answers to these mysteries. Therefore, it's plain to state that given the secrecy and the nagging sense that we have been lied to about the nature of our realm, the desire for exploration will rise quite naturally in many men who would love to explore the region, map its area and investigate exactly who or what is to be found there. In that sense, 60 Degrees may prove to be somewhat visionary as more and more men inevitably will seek to explore the region beyond the ice wall. Rossenheimer's conjecture is that there are vast lands beyond the ice wall, resources and civilizations which are demonstrably kept secret from the public. Why, then, has the actual nature of this realm been so successfully hidden from us? The answer, I would posit, is that the mindbenders who are in service to the forces of the demiurge, the false god of this realm, want to ensnare everyone in a web of lies. After all, if a man does not know where he is, then he is quite literally lost. Lost in a godless universe where, according to uniformitarian narratives, he is but an accident of evolution, somehow washed up on a ball-shaped rock that is hurtling through space, lost in a meaningless virtual prison for his mind and his soul. Such notions are, of course, born from nihilism, and in its essence, uniformitarian belief is nihilism. It's a belief that would have us trapped in a false perception of what chronology and falsified history would have us believe. Incidentally, John Hamer has written a book entitled The Falsification of History. It is a world in which everything is presented as being in a state of evolution, and that these evolutionary processes are subject to vast stretches of time, a world in which there is no divine creation, only accidents, with no recorded history of those cataclysms which are periodic in their repetition, and whose occurrences were marked and set in stone for future generations to know about and prepare for accordingly. A young man filled with boundless curiosity to find out exactly where he is will naturally seek the answers to who and what he is, how he fits in the chronology of the world, and what are the dimensions of the reality in which he finds himself. That's the natural spirit of man, and hence there is immeasurable power to be gleaned from the boy's own stories that come into his purview. It thus follows that to describe 60 Degrees South as a classic of the boy's own genre is to praise the spirit in which it was written and the subject matter which is vast in its scope. It's also worth noting that the two authors manifestly enjoyed writing it, and that, inevitably, adds to the reader's own enjoyment of the novel. Adam and Dobbo are the two heroes, and their story is an exciting one, involving jet fighter technology, hidden and classified information, a treacherous system of command populated by dodgy characters, dogfights, travel to uncharted lands, healing technologies and civilizations without deceptive hierarchies that are built, essentially, on the golden rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. The interwoven historical narratives, for instance the mysteries of Captains Cook and Ross, who attempted to find a way through the ice wall, of Scott of the Antarctic, the sinking of the Titanic and its associations with the 1913 foundation of the financial fraud that is the Federal Reserve, the explorations and revelations of Admiral Byrd, Amelia Earhart's strange disappearance, James Forrestal's association with Byrd and his dubious death, and the activities of the Third Reich in Antarctica, jointly and severally add to the quality of the book. This is a quotation from the book, and it's about Sir James Clark Ross, the 19th century polar explorer who was among the first to venture to Antarctica in an attempt to determine the position of the South Magnetic Pole. Quote, "When confronting the massive vertical face, he had famously remarked, 'It was an obstruction of such character as to leave no doubt in my mind as to our future proceedings, for we might as well sail through the cliffs of Dover as to penetrate such a mass. It would be impossible to conceive a more solid-looking mass of ice. Not the smallest appearance of any rent or fissure could we discover throughout its whole extent, and the intensely bright sky beyond it plainly indicated the great distance to which it reached southward. For several years, on and off, Ross and his expeditionary fleet attempted unsuccessfully to fully circumnavigate the ice wall, but were consistently thwarted in their attempts to locate any kind of sea passage to the interior. His lengthy investigations had been his first tentative steps in challenging the Antarctic paradigm, an attempt to identify any gaps, limitations, or downright falsehoods in the current knowledge and understanding. Was this frozen near vertical precipice, as per the accepted mainstream narrative, simply the northern edge of a floating oceanic ice shelf, beyond which lay an inhospitable, barren, ice-covered landmass at the underside of our 24,000-mile circumference globe Earth? Or could it be, perhaps, an actual true wall, holding the oceans in place and separating our world from others beyond it? How far does the ice extend? How and where does it terminate? And what, if anything, exists beyond it? Were questions to which neither he nor the vast majority of mankind could possibly answer. An ignorance successfully perpetrated by the restrictions imposed by the Antarctic Treaty. It's interesting to note also that there are many strange anomalies concerning what is known as the North Pole. Similarly, it has a forbidden flight zone and is another extreme region explored by Admiral Byrd. The Smoky God is a novel that is also based on the supposedly factual exploration of a youth and his father who sailed far north to discover advanced beings living in a hollow earth, living underground, inside the earth. The entry point to which is accessible from beyond the North Pole. Asgard, Agartha and Shambhala are names given to these realms that exist deep underground and which were well known to the ancients. Whilst the truth is invariably stranger than fiction, it's also the case that fiction can be used to convey the truth, and that the suspension of disbelief allows for the transmission of that truth into the imagination of the reader. 60 Degrees South exemplifies the point perfectly. It's a fictional adventure story rooted in the facts and mysteries surrounding the Forbidden Zone. And in that sense, what Andy Ross and John Hamer have written is a rip-roaring yarn, a tale of incredible discovery, which includes a requisite map, see above, and the sort of heroic challenges that any boy, young or old, will love. Why? On the simple basis that it will fire his imagination and determination to make sense of the realm he finds himself in. He may find himself in this realm, but he is certainly not of it. In this world, but not of it. At some point, the man may well come to the realization that he is in fact a holy sojourner, passing through a divine construct that is a university for his soul, filled with trials, tribulations and triumphs that constantly test him, which, whether we like it or not, is simply how it is. Quote, "Our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world." Ephesians 6:12. All of which, ultimately, is the individual man's raison d'etre. It's the very point of his life and all his natural proclivities to find out who, what he is, and where he exists in the great scheme of things. Alexander Pope wrote, "The truth is beauty. Beauty is truth. That is all on earth you need to know." 60 Degrees South is available at John's website and Amazon. As ever, thank you for your attention. Should you value these essays and my discourses on Rogue Mail, then please feel free to tip me a few quid via the Buy Me a Coffee button and or take out a paid subscription to my Substack pages. Until the next time, my friends, I'll catch you on the flip side.